All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to Merrimack Valley Library Con's Becoming a Board Game Designer and Using Your Library to Do It panel. Tonight, our panelists are Hayden Kane and Jeff Johnston. And a little bit more about Hayden. Hayden is a Wilmington High School student and hobby board game designer. He, in addition to Mr. Johnston, created the Wilmington Memorial Library Board Game Design Club. Oh, I'm so sorry, that was my dog. He currently has many game prototypes and concepts, as well as one game being reviewed by a potential publisher. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Hayden. And Jeff Johnston is also a Wilmington resident who has a real job, but sometimes designs family board games too. You can find some of them in stores, but more importantly, in circulation at the Wilmington Memorial Library. That's right. Please come to us if you would like to check out any of Jeff's games. Jeff has been working with the Wilmington Memorial Library for years to bring game design opportunities to its patrons, and especially teens. And that's what brings him here tonight with Hayden. So thank you guys so much for being here. We're really excited for your panel. And I'm going to mute myself so my dog Dale doesn't make any more appearances.
All right, well, thanks, Brittany. And so Hayden and I pulled this together, and we're not ashamed to say we just went through the slides in the last 30 minutes. So let's see, and we'll present a lot of information, and we might go through quickly, but feel free to raise your hand or type a chat, and we'll try to keep on that. But we'll just cover a lot of ground, and then so ask along the way, and we've got some time at the end to answer some questions. And let me advance. So who are we? All right. So Hayden.
Yeah. Although we had lovely intros by Brittany, I'm just going to go over some things. Like Brittany said, I'm a Wilmington High senior. Love board games, card games, all types of tabletop. President of the Library Game Club. My game that is being reviewed by a publisher is Kitchen Catastrophe, but I have several other prototypes that will hopefully be seen when we can all go outside again.
Cool, thanks, Hayden. Yes, so I'm a real person in the real world. I do have a couple of games that are published out there. We'll hit those up. And a lot of half-finished prototypes. But our bottom line that we wanted to have you walk away with was that, we're amateurs, we're not game professionals, and we're proof that you can do this too. So if you've got any interest, maybe we'll give you some tools to get you moving forward. So just quickly, I do family-friendly kind of games. A game about toasting marshmallows or catching fireflies at night and playing Flashlight Freeze Tag, and maybe something whimsical like you're escaping a doomed prison planet. And I actually just this month, came to an agreement with a publisher who wants to do another one of my games called Barely Asleep, where you're bear cubs working together to trick the adult bears to fall asleep for winter, so you can stay up playing winter games all winter long yourself. So maybe that'll be a real game too. All right, so how did we get into game design?
Yeah, so for me, I've been coming up with game designs, just putting them in phone notes or Google Drives for many years, but never really started prototyping until Mr. Johnston ran it was a merit badge design, the game design merit badge program at the library. Something I've always wanted to do to get that badge. And after which, obviously, we didn't stop there. But yeah, I really love tabletop games. Community's great. You can catch me at a lot of tabletop events, like PAX East, which isn't specifically tabletop, but they do have a large portion of tabletop games. Yeah, all that sort of things.
So, I was talking to a colleague at work, and he kind of revealed his bucket list item was to walk into a bookstore and see a book on the shelf in that bookstore that he been involved with and written. And it got me to thinking, well, what would I want as a bucket list item? And I sort of kind of morphed that into my own thing, walk into a game store and see a game that I'd had a hand in making. And so that's where it started. And then, as I've started to make games and, share these new games with people, whether they're real games or even just the prototypes, and quite, usually it is just prototype, but sharing it with new people and just seeing people having fun with those. has been a blast. And so that's kind of, what keeps me going. So I'm sure you all might have in your own minds, what would interest you in making games. That kind of sets our stage. And Hayden and I, we worked together on this teen board game club. But how did we get there here at the Wilmington Library? A couple of summers ago, I put together a presentation, and we're actually pulling from some of that material tonight. How to make a board game and how to make it real. Bring it into a game store. And so I put that on, and that sort of led into an opportunity, a January or two ago, where Brittany tricked me into running like a 7-week program where we met about 6 times. And I used the game design merit badge from the Boy Scouts as a framework for that, but it was open to everybody. And some of the teens, some of the participants actually were scouts and getting credit for that as we went through it. But we had a great time, and every participant was challenged to make their own game. And that culminated into a great family game night where everybody came and played each other's prototypes, with family members and things like that. And so we had a good time at that. All right, Hayden.
Yeah, so from that came the creation of the game club. We decided that the program simply wasn't enough for us. And really, I think the biggest part of that is we all, as game designers, use a lot of different resources in creating our games. And one of them is people to playtest. And I mean, one of our biggest resources in the club is people to playtest the games. And obviously, we encourage everybody in the club to have a hand at making their own games. But a lot of the time, we enjoy playtesting and not only just play our own games, but get some second opinions and whatnot. But yeah,
all right, okay,
just wasn't enough for us.
So, how do you make games? A brief guide. Let's see. All right, so we're just going to walk through a lot of concepts in this next hour of things, but you're going to have your first idea. You're going to make a prototype, and maybe that prototype, you want it to be in the stores, or maybe it's just a game you want to make and break out on family gatherings and things like that. So, I grabbed this from Game Salute, which is up in New Hampshire, actually. But I love this visualization of like, how long does it take to make a game? And I love this because, the concept of a game, and they did it by these die rolls, which I thought was clever. But, to come up with a game idea, really could take just a few seconds, right? 1 to 20 minutes. Then the next step of the process, and that's what we're mostly going to be focusing on with you today, is like, but to take that idea into something that really is kind of its own game, that could take another couple of moments or days or weeks, or it could take a couple of years. So it's really a wide range there. And then you get a little bit more sense of, like once say a publisher or your own self, like, okay, this is the game, adding art to it and making it a real product. Then, finding a partner out there to manufacture this game. Maybe you did it in China, so it's got to get from the factory to some place where you're going to deliver it. Then you're going to fulfill and ship it. And then finally, some happy people are going to be playing your game. Maybe even people you've never met. Wouldn't that be great? Okay. So like I said, we're going to focus on this design and development part, a little bit of the concept. So where do we, Hayden and I, get our game ideas? Life experiences. That's for me. I make family games, and usually my starting point for a game is just some fun I had as a kid, or just this notion of having fun in my youth. And then I take those activities and I maybe try to, build a game around it. Hayden?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for me. I think a lot of the time I'll just have an idea pop in my head, and it's just write it down quickly in a notebook or in a phone notes app or something. But also that comes with keeping a game designer notebook. I have mine right here. This is actually the one I got during the program last year. And you'll see it's full of not that I focus that much, but all notes on games. A lot of playtest notes are in there. And really in my opinion, one of the best things you can do to keep moving forward productively is to have a notebook, specifically for game design, and not that way you have all your ideas, all of your notes in one place, and you can often find, even though you don't have it in more previous iterations of the game based on your notes, it's pretty fun to look back and see everything.
Yeah, I have a notebook I call my Bright Ideas book, and that game called Flashlights and Fireflies. Um, I was bored one day, and I was just flipping back through my Bright Ideas book, and there was just this kind of notion, playing flashlight freeze tag, and it just reminded me of that game, of that would be a fun play space, but it just just sparked me to like, yeah, why don't we dive into this, and I came up with a game around that. Cool. Write a story. I use this technique sometimes myself. So you have an idea about a game, but you don't really know where you want the fun to be. So sometimes I've written a little story, and it's almost like through that story I can either, like, sometimes it's like a real story about the characters that are sort of could be involved in this game. But it's just an exercise that helps me find out, like, what kind of fun might I try to be creating during the gameplay. And so sometimes that's a useful technique. Incubation. You want to talk here?
I can speak to it after, but I think you were the one who introduced this concept to me. Actually, it's very interesting.
Well, there's a couple of angles on this one, but I use it in two ways. One is sometimes you have a game idea and you work on it and you just hit a wall, and so one thing to do is just set it aside, and then I find that during like boring moments, maybe an idea will come together that might help you solve that problem, or put two problems together into game solvers. So for me, maybe it's in the shower, maybe it's mowing the lawn, or maybe it's just you're driving and you just turn off the radio or whatever. So for me, I need to kind of create some moments to be bored, to just help my creativity and kind of remove some of those stimuli that are always bouncing around.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to me. A lot of the time I'll work on a game nonstop, and then if I hit that wall, I'll incubate it for a little bit, and then I'll go back to it in a little while, and after I've forgotten a lot of the parts of the game, and just try to make sense of it. And then I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, even though I was the one who made the game. So a lot of the time it's the incubation helps to just, I guess, give yourself kind of a reminder of how the game makes sense, if it makes sense, what parts of the game don't make sense. Like, for example, I have a game that's very complicated and has a lot of aspects, and I think it could be fun, but I think I overthought a lot of it. So I'm incubating that for a little bit, and I'll go back to it and say, well, why did I do that? Or why did I add that mechanic?
Cool.
It's a way to improve the game. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And, try to be unique. I mean, you can have a great idea for a game, and maybe somebody's already done it, and that actually shouldn't be a block for you. Don't feel like try to be unique, but temper that. If you're just doing something new with an old idea, or you took two old ideas and put them together and are playing it in a new way, that's all perfectly good game space. And sometimes it might not be marketable, but it certainly is a fun space to design in.
Right. And we'll touch on that later, of who you're making games for.
Yeah. And so will your idea be unique? So here's my example, and it's a very personal one. I made this game called Moonquake Escape, and look at this beauty. This is on a spinning board. There's a moon going around. You are these alien creatures on a planet, and it's destroying itself. It's a prison planet too, and you've got to get to the center to escape. That very same year was another game called The Daedalus Sentence. Look how unique it is. It's on this spinning board with rings that go around. You're aliens trapped in a prison. Actually, you're humans on an alien prison trying to escape from the center to the outside. I mean, the similarities were remarkable. And actually, so I reached out to the designers, and we talked, and we found out how our games were similar, but how unique they were. you know, but whatever you do, you know, take your idea, you know, make it your own, and you'll be fine. So part of this message is, you know, you can try to be unique. The other part of it is you're not going to be unique, but don't worry about it. Just make it your own and know where the fun is in your game. All right, gaming terms. So, you know, we're going to talk about, you know, some of these things, but, you know, as you know, work on your game and things, you're probably going to need to, you know, learn some core terminology and things like that, just so you can communicate with your players and, you know, maybe with publishers. You know, so, you know, what are you playing with, you know, what are the game mediums that you're using in this, you know, maybe you're just doing cards or you're doing a dice game or something like that.
Yeah, and also with that is how does the game play in terms of player formats? So that's either like it can be single player, or if you can play it with 100 people, if it's a party game, if it's everybody against one person, that sort of thing. And there's a bunch of different formats in that. That's what can make a game unique that may have a lot of similar concepts to a different another game that's already out there.
Excellent. All right. Now, what makes up a game? So, you know, a way to, you know, think about like the parts of a game, you know, are you know, every game. I won't say every game. It's hard to be rules, but you know, you'll need to write out some rules, and those rules generally organize how do you set it up, how do you play, how do you win, right? You know, so I use tic-tac-toe as an example. So how many rules are in tic-tac-toe? So just take a moment and think about that. Maybe come up with a number of how many rules are involved with a simple game like tic-tac-toe. So, you know, we got some setup. You know, you're going to have to draw a grid. You're going to have to decide who is X's and O's. You know, once you've done that, you're ready to play. Playing, well, X goes first. Got to have some way to, you know, how do you start, right? First player rule. You put your mark in an empty square. You alternate marks. And how do you win? Okay, we all know that. 3 X's a row in a row. But if no player can do that before the grid is filled, the game's a draw. Okay, so I came up with about 7 rules for tic-tac-toe. Is that how many you guys came up with too? You know, so sometimes, you know, maybe if you came up with more, maybe I missed some, maybe if you came up with less. But, you know, as you play, test, and play your games, you're going to be, you know, kind of figuring out what are the rule sets you need to write down, because you're going to have to be able to communicate how you play your game to another player, and you're not going to be in every box, right? You're not going to be able to, you know, jump out and teach your game to somebody. So, all right, Hayden, building a prototype.
Yeah, so prototypes can be really either very complicated or really simple. I mean, I'll show a picture of one of my early prototypes, but it's literally just index cards. It's really all you need. This is my first prototype. It's just a bunch of index cards with writing on them. And I think the reason for that's important is that in your early stages of the game, like for the first draft, you're going to be going through a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of the cards that are in this aren't even what made it to my more polished version. So a lot of the time, you don't want to go and print off some cards on high quality cardstock in full color, and go through the effort of, you know, formatting everything. If you know that there's going to be a lot of changes to the game, and there were. I mean, I even have cards that are for game mechanics that never even made it to the current copy. I tried to do some action cards, and that just didn't work out, and it's also from feedback. So I think a lot of the time, starting out with something like this, not only is it's very inexpensive, you can get a pack of 100 index cards at the dollar store. It's very inexpensive if you're making a lot of prototypes, and it's also, you know, it's change friendly. So I mean,
Yeah.
I have another game that I'm working on right now. All the cards are on index cards, and that won't change until I figure out if all the mechanics work and if all the cards are what I want them to be.
So I remember when Hayden brought this prototype to one of the Wilmington you know, game club nights, and you know, it was perfectly adequate to play test, and you know, hopefully you're play testing with a group of people that you trust. It's like, hey, let me bring this here. It might not be any fun at all. But help me, play this and let's find the nuggets of fun, so that, as a designer, you can concentrate on those and build out for there and, edit out some of the things that are fun or edit out things that take you a while to get to the fun. All right. Making prototypes. Yeah.
Yeah. It can really be all different mediums. It all depends on time, money, not everything, but there's a lot of cases. You're not going to use high quality cardstock for your first draft if you're on a budget for your first game or even further games. But yeah, paper, pencil is really the most basic form. You can upgrade that with card sleeves. A lot of people take like a poker card or a Magic the Gathering card in the middle and line it with 2 pieces of paper inside a card sleeve.
That really helps with shuffling, right?
Right. Yeah. Helps with shuffling and gives your game a little more of a higher quality look. Not that really matters in playtesting, especially if you're doing mechanics, but it can help potential playtesters or people who you're showing the game to help them understand what your vision is for the game more. And so I think that's one way you could do it. PowerPoint, you can definitely show off your game. If you're good in graphic design, you can show it on the computer without having to print it out.
If you're good at graphic design, you're probably laughing that I put PowerPoint on this list. Okay, but it's my go-to high graphic quality tool, and anyway, so but I use that a lot just to shape just take clip art and put place it cleverly to just get a feel for how a game might look once you get past the point of like understanding the basics of your game. I put maker spaces on there too. My first maker space, so that Moonquake Escape thing with all the spinning rings and things, I actually went and got some pieces laser cut just so I could get a sense of how these things might fit together and move and interact. My favorite makerspace is the library. Our library at Wilmington, if you go there, has a 3D printer, and I think many libraries might. If yours doesn't, come to Wilmington. And I've printed up many pieces, and I like to say with 3D printing, I've learned every single way not to make a component. I have this game concept where you're raking leaves and you're stacking them on these little pieces, these little cards that look like a rake, and you hit the end of it and all these leaves go flying over the place. So I was up to like version 25 of how to not make the like the little log that you put it on and all those things. But the Wilmington Library was key in helping me find out how to not make it. Then my kids gave me a 3D printer for Christmas, and now I don't have to come down there so much. Okay. But you can spend a lot of time on your prototypes and using different tools and things like that. Okay. All right. Where can you find prototype things? You can be clever. So this is a lot of fun. I find personally in the hobby is just the crafting of these prototypes and things. And I will go to office supply stores just to pick up little parts and pieces. I'll wander through the arts and crafts stores to get inspiration. Sometimes, from things I see there. There are sites online, gamecrafter.com. I should probably put Print and Play as another source up there. We'll put that on there where you can, take a little bit more polished things and they will make a complete copy of your game for you and send it back to you. But my absolute favorite place to find game component parts is from other games. And you will find me at yard sales and church bazaars, buying copies of match games. I just like if I see the shape of a component that I like, I will buy the game just for that. I will spend the 50 cents at your yard sale to buy your game.
That's a great way to give games new life in a prototype if someone doesn't play them anymore, or if it would otherwise be swept under the carpet or thrown out.
I rely a lot on paper cutters, so if you do just print out, whether it was PowerPoint or, some Adobe tool, the little, rectangular shapes, and then you can use a paper cutter just quickly to cut those and get them into card sleeves. I'll use a laminator sometimes to laminate pieces, again, just for maybe if you want to slide things along it, or give it a little rigidity or something like that, if that was part of yours. And also, I use I use a lot of beer coasters. They're just a good beefy shape, and you can just glue something. Or I also use full sheet stickers that I'll cut down to size, just to help give a sense of what a component might be.
Right, that's what I used for this die here. You can see for what ended up being part of the finished product. Parts of that are from sticker paper, just cut out and put on. I mean, I've got a whole bag of blank die that you can stick them on, and it makes custom die, which is, I mean, something that can add a lot of fun to a game.
All right, and how many different faces are on there?
Just two, but there's 2 different variants, and there's six sides. Obviously, they're covered, so 3 apiece.
6 sides? Okay, all right. Well, with only 2 variants, why don't you use a coin and flip it? See, this is what game designers can do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Adding art. At some point, you probably, you can add art. You don't need to at all. And sometimes you can draw your own stuff. I love Ed Imberly, the Maker World stuff, all you old people that are online. So, I go to that to maybe even just make some things. Hayden?
Yeah, GameIcons.net and allsilhouettes.com are great resources as well. I believe they have some clip art or like silhouette icons on the Game Crafter as well. But really, this is a great way to prototype a game, because a lot of time, if you're using art on a game, it's going to be copyright, and if you are going to try and get it published, you're going to, or at least self-publish, you're going to need some art done. But this is most of it's, I believe all of it's free and uncopyrighted. So it's a great resource to use, especially for icons on a card or token or whatnot.
But if you're, making a prototype for your own enjoyment, I mean, if you're not trying to sell it and make some money off of it, you can borrow stuff and use it. I am not a lawyer, so don't take that. Depends on how legacious you think somebody might be. But if you're just making a product, trying to like sell the concept, not sell a product, you might be able to use somebody's IP. Like I have done. I took an opportunity to take one of my game themes, and I took it from the theme I was on, and I turned it into a Harry Potter theme. So I was using all the names, I was using all that, but I'm not gonna kickstart this thing and make money off of Harry Potter's names. I was trying to put sued. I might very well, but I was definitely trying to make a product that I could go to the game company that had licensed the Harry Potter IP to say, hey, do you want to make a game in this, using this IP you've already got? Here's another game idea. I never got to make that pitch, but it was a lot of fun going through it. And I've still got it on the shelf, just in case. Okay. All right. Hey, Hayden.
So yeah, this is kind of how my design course went. It was we went through many different phases. A lot of the cards have been switched out, whatnot. But as you can see, the first prototype was literally just index cards. I've got it right here. I think it's a great way that everybody should start a game unless they have special components in there. And now it's right here. This is not the copy, but a version of the copy that I sent to a publisher. And you can see kind of through it the process in this bag. I've got a bunch of star tokens, and I asked one of the families that playtested my game, hey, I'd like to test out these components. So when you win, you either get a star token or you can keep this, the card. And I just bought a big roll of these star stickers, and I stuck them on the backs of all the cards. So if you win, you keep the card. I'm like, can you play it both ways? And that's kind of part of the design process and the prototyping process. Also is trying out different variants. And a good way to figure out which one's better is simply to play both back to back and figure out which one plays better and which one you personally like better.
Right. And so I'd like to just take it a little aside and just talk about, so like, Hayden and I talked about using the copy on the left there, that was more than adequate for us to bring, to our little game club and this group of players that we often play our not so fun yet games, half-baked games, and that's fine. When you start taking your game out like further to like, maybe I like to sometimes call them real people, not just us game designers. Sometimes you have to up it up just a little bit. So what Hayden's done on the right, is probably not what you would pull off a game store shrink wrap thing and do that, but it certainly brings it up to that level to like the more general population, like a someone that you'd want you to play that final polish game. And it helps them, take a little bit more seriously what you're doing, so sometimes you do have to, plus it up a little bit, but you don't have to plus it up all that much. And I'm not saying that you didn't plus it up that much, Hayden. I hope you know.
Yeah. And also all of the images on all of these carts are clip art, royalty-free images, and it really shows you don't need to have art done for a prototype. I think it's really, I did all this for pretty much free, so it's not as much a cost issue as I guess there could be a misconception that in order to get into game design, you need to have the 3D printer. You need to have the laser cutter, and I think that it really shows you. Really, anybody can do it. I think it's a good lesson to take away that anybody can do it.
Cool. Hey, Hayden, what slide number are we on?
We are on 21.
Okay, 21. Okay, great. Okay, cool. 21. That's me. Okay, playtesting, getting feedback. Right. So first thing, get your terrible idea out of your great idea. It's a terrible game right now, trust me, but get it out of your head and get it on the table. Take the time to make those note cards and just play it. And if you have a brilliant time with it, fantastic. If you have a terrible time with it, don't worry. But I think that's a very important step. Just do that on your idea. You're going to find parts of it that are really annoying and don't work, but you're hopefully going to find parts of that game that you thought that was, kind of that inspiration, like this could be a lot of fun. So do that. And so that's one of the things that we, try to talk about a lot at our little game club is, hey, anybody got something new? Let's just try it. And Hayden's not shy. He brings us terrible stuff all the time. But but he walks away with some good tips and boy, he's got a game with a publisher right now, which is a feat, to be honest, because so many people are making games. It's kind of hard to get a publisher's attention. So great job, Hayden. And then playtesters, we've talked about the library, but obviously starting with your family and friends is a good place for playtesters. But I encourage you to get outside of that circle too, because maybe with people that are a little more critical, that are looking more just at your play concept. I'm a member, and Hayden, you are too, of the Game Makers Guild. So we're a meetup that meets in Boston, and we meet here. We've got a little thing north of Boston too that meets up. But we're just a bunch of collaborative game designers that play our terrible games until they get better. And we have people that come to our meetings that just love to play games. They're not designers themselves. So, that's a resource for folks to look at or to just search, in your local area, for other meetup groups of playtesters or just gamers. And that can be a great place to find playtesters. Let me keep talking then. And not everyone's going to like your game, right? So sometimes you're going to meet people and so understanding, how to characterize your game and who you think it'll be fun for, or what kind of games, if people like that kind of game, they might have fun with it. So, you're never going to make a product that everyone's going to love. Trust me. Some of those games I have published are available for review by individuals and they're ruthless. Okay. All right. And then edit your game. Less is more. So you're probably, once you get on a groove and you're really in a fun space and you're really having fun with your game, you are tempted to add a lot to your game. And sometimes a lot is what the game wants, but usually less is what the game wants. And focus on what are the most fun parts and edit out the rest. is, even if that's not how the game winds up, maybe the game does wind up bigger, but understanding really the funnest cores of your game is really, really an important step and an important exercise, and really helps make the game better. Get to the fun as fast as you can. I've seen a lot of games, and the designer wound up, like having in their mind, how we needed to kind of progress to the fun. But if it wasn't fun in the progression, edit that out. Let's just start the game right there. At that point, maybe it's a different story than you wanted to tell if you had that in their mind. But get to the fun as fast as you can in your games. Edit out downtime, things like that. And share. So the more perspectives you can get on your game, just the better it's going to be, and the more insights you're going to have. And people will see what you're too close to about your game. And if you're smart enough, you'll listen to them. And sometimes I've been smart, and sometimes I've been, arrogant. Okay. Not arrogant in that way, but, just not smart enough to see that outside perspective and really embrace it. Because usually that means you got to break your game, break it down and start over. Okay.
Yeah, I got a lot of feedback like that at PAX when I went to test my game. And at first I was thinking, oh, how can these people tell me how to change my game? I've been working on it for months, and they've only just played it. But really, you have to realize, like, that outside perspective is, like, everybody. If your game ever gets published, it's going to be people who have never played it before are all going to play it for the first time, and you want that first impression to be strong, and you want people to know what's fun in the game. So I think when I changed my mindset on that, I think that's what really led me in a direction of starting to make the game better. Yeah.
Get down, Hayden.
Yeah. So speaking of testing outside of family and friends, this is how I tested my game. The biggest thing for me was PAX East in Boston and signing up for Unpub, which is short for Unpublished Games. It's a booth near the back of the hall where everybody can sign up for time slots to test their unpublished games, games that no one's ever played before. And so that was the biggest part. One of the biggest resources for me, obviously, the game club family. And I think that I did a lot of testing myself as well. So in a lot of cases, you don't need other people to play. Just like, for example, I have 2 cards. Oh, will they work? I don't know. If I was playing it and I went through these 2 cards, it's like a speed game.
Yeah, one tip I have there. Some games, I do a lot of cooperative games, so it is easy to play it by yourself because you can kind of play the group yourself. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a little 3x5 card and I'll assign like a little artificial intelligence to a player. Like, this player always likes to do this or whatever. And then that way I can go from player to player and kind of like try to forget what, like even in a competitive game now, what would this kind of player be, and then make your decisions based on that. And so you can copy that AI and have several players playing the same way that way, or some player is playing kind of uniquely this other way. And that's another way to kind of play by yourself, but get out of your own head. Although it is better if you can have real people in their own heads making decisions, because they're going to make a decision you weren't expecting, and they're going to want to play your game a different way than you wanted them to. And that's a really important moment to step back and say, if a lot of people are doing this, or why did I not let them play that way? Because that's pretty fun, and it can take you in new ways with your game, new directions with your game.
I'm gonna skip down a little bit. In the end, I made a lot of changes at PAX that I never even thought about, just based on the suggestions of playtesters. Like, oh, maybe change the hand from 5 cards to 4. Does that make it more fun? Do you have more options that make it more fun? Also got notes from the publisher that I met with. He's from Game Right, and he had watched a group play my game, and he sat down after, went through how it's played, and he recommended, before I was using one of these die, wasn't custom. I was doing even numbers are good, odd numbers are bad. And he's like, well, really having a custom die is a way to do that, because not only do kids love rolling things around, because I considered a coin, not only do they love rolling things around, but it's more visual as well. You can see the faces on it, obviously. And that was a big thing with that. Also, when I was playing there, I was using these stars as well. This was before I ended up with these stars on the back of the cards. And he had, I mean, I had questioned this myself, but he really put the idea in my head. What is necessary? Not only from a playing perspective, is it fun? But by removing this, are you taking away the fun? But also from a publishing and production perspective, hey, I want you to produce my game. Here are all the million unique contents you need for it, versus here's a deck of cards. This is all you need to play plus a die. And it's really kind of, and I think also we'll touch later on who you're making the game for. I think that's also part of it. If you're making the game for a publisher, or if you're making it really for yourself, it's going to determine what you use in the game design process, or what the goal for the game is.
Yeah, and one of my mottos is if you get some idea from a playtester, always be magnanimous about it and always register it. But I always say, don't be afraid of it, because it's really only one playtest away to see if, some suggestion or some idea you have is more fun than how you were previously playing it. So that's my motto. It's always one playtest away. So we did want to leave some questions at the end. So Hayden, you and I, we're going to put on our rockets and, walk through some of this content here at the end and make sure we just get some of these things, on a high level out there.
Right. Yeah. So this is how we've been doing it with the game club. We mainly use Discord, just because it's easy with screen share. Multiple people can screen share, but also Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia are two popular options for remote playtesting online.
So even though, tabletop, I think is getting very popular now, because getting together, don't let that now that we can't get together, don't let that stop you. It is harder to kind of prototype, play some of your prototypes, but where there's
we've made it work.
Yeah. I throw this when I talk about games, because when I do this is just a game. I had always thought about my games like, a game needs 4 things about it. And, and someone said, well, what are those 4 things? And it says, well, I don't know. I'll know it when I see it. But this diagram actually kind of helped me kind of put it a little bit more scientifically at what I was thinking. Is just this notion that different aspects of the game kind of combine together to create this whole context about it, right? And, so the rules and the components kind of playing together in the mechanics, right? And the flavor and the and the rules combining into the theme, and this flavor and components flying into the narrative. And so that actually really helped put some things together. And I'm not doing it justice here, but when I did like my toasted marshmallow game, you play the card on top of a beer coaster that looks like a stick, and it sits over the fire, right? So just the notion of like making the game real is really important in my designs, that I really like the player to kind of do the thing we're talking about. Like you are on the moon, and those things are moving around and you're trying to escape. And I just did a game. It's a sandcastle tower defense where the waves are coming in. So I really wanted, like the waves have to be coming at you, and things like that. So these are important to just me as a designer. So check out this article on the League of Game Makers. Theme versus mechanic. I always start with theme. A lot of people start with mechanic. Your choice. The next 3 slides, these are just some great things, the designer's checklist, just things to think about as you're going through it. I'm not going to talk about any of them because we don't have time, and I wasn't going to anyway before. But, where is the fun? Are the mechanics too innovative, right? Are you going to have to, teach somebody something really weird? Maybe there's too much there. What is the MSRP of this thing if you ever want to get it there, depending, with that. So just all these different questions, just ask yourself as you go down. Some online resources that you might want to check out. And Brittany, we're going to be able to make this presentation, I think, available where these links are, but just some great places where designers, get together. There's some great Facebook groups, Cardboard Edison that are at. I use this game design merit badge as a resource, especially when I'm working with younger designers. Google. How do you make a concept real? Well, there's a lot of talked about in that, and that could be a future presentation if folks want to hear about that. And, hit up Hayden and I, and, how do you, get in front of a publisher and do those kind of things. There's a whole bunch we could talk about that. So we did want to check back in with the library. How can you use your library to help? Boy, Brittany gets me all kinds of, different aged players, because I actually like to make family games, and all my family is gone and they hate playing my games now because Dad doesn't always like to hear that it's not fun, but that's another story. Space to play your games. Libraries can give you that. 3D printers, hey, if you don't have one, there's a place to go look at it. Books on design and fun and things like that. Your librarians can help you find those. Advertising for your game. We've done events, and Brittany's gone out there and, gotten us people, Hayden put together an entire game day, and Brittany actually put together a human battleship that was a blast. And we actually, changed how we played the game during the game. We play tested it. And different kind of events that the library can help you host and get out there. Hayden, talk about our game club.
Last one, or one of the last ones, running a game club at your local library. Also, I think you should join our local game club library, even if you're not from Wilmington. We are always having new members. We meet once a month. We found if it was every other week, it was just we're playing the same thing over and over again. We found once a month is a happy medium. We break down our meetings into playtesting our prototypes and playing our favorite games. It's not all about making games. We're also enjoying our favorite games, sharing games, playing games we never played before. One thing that I think is important that we do in the meetings is play different variations of the game. So new ideas on the fly. So we'll play a game and then someone will say, hey, but what if you did it like this instead? And then you can, then you play it with that new version and you figure out that's more fun.
It's only a playtest away.
Right.
And we talked about running events too. Okay, right. Cool. All right, wrap up. So let's see. Get your idea to the table. That's so important. It'll be terrible, but don't be afraid. But that's the most important step because it's the first one.
Yeah, make a fun game. Do it. Make a game that's fun to you. If you don't see the fun, and if you don't enjoy it, then maybe consider what aspects of the game are fun or what you can do to make it fun. Because I think a good game, especially one that's for the family, no matter what your target audience is, have a game that anybody can understand, but have a game that also gives more in-depth strategy and play if you'd like to do that.
Right. But yeah. Understand where your game's fun is, because if you want to talk to a publisher, you got to tell them where the fun is. If you're at a game convention or just a big forum where a lot of people are playing games, you got to lure them away from all these other real games to play your game, which is also a real game, but somebody wants to call it my game. Anyway, another story. But knowing where your game's fun will help you kind of sell your story and trick them into playing your game too. All right, decide who you're making it for, right? So just know your audience, right? Are you making a family game? Are you making a game? That'll just help you with some of your design decisions. Hayden.
Have a fun name. My first working title for Kitchen Catastrophe, which is the final name, was Combo Wombo. And then we found out that someone else had made a game called Wombo Combo, and then that I ended up changing it to Kitchen Catastrophe.
I love it. Okay.
And also a lot of the time, granted, the game I'm working on now, I'm having a hard time finding a name because there's already games with all the names I would like to do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, even if you do use the name still.
All right. Know where the fun is. I think we've talked about that. And share. The more feedback you get on the game, the better off you're going to be. And it also, helps protect your idea, right? The more people know that your game idea is yours, that's great. Okay. All right. So, we know the session officially runs to 6:30, but both Hayden and I are able to stick around for a little bit. In fact, we even have prototypes. We can break out a room if anybody wanted to, play some of our games. But we just wanted to pause here for some questions. Brittany, if you could help us orchestrate that part.
Sure. So, audience members, if anyone has a question, please go ahead and put those right in the chat, and I will read them out for you. Also, I didn't get everything in the chat that I would have liked, including the link to the article from the PowerPoint presentation, but remember this will be posted on the Merrimack Valley Library Con page on Facebook. So that will be available as soon as the recording is ready through Zoom. So please just put your questions right in the chat. I've also given you some information about Board Game Club. The Wilmington Memorial Library Board Game Club meets. Hayden, why don't you tell us when it meets?
Oh, we meet the last Wednesday of every month at 6:30. We normally run till 8:30, but you know, it's when you're playing games, the time really flies. So sometimes we run a little late.
Yes. Also, Hayden, do you want to talk about the accounts we have if anyone needs to borrow?
Right now we are doing a lot of testing on Tabletop Simulator. It's like a physics simulator sort of thing where it's all games. So the library was very generous in buying 4 copies of that and having 4 Steam accounts. So if anybody would like to participate in our testing and you don't want to shell, I think it's $15 for the game, you can use the library's copy.
And the account will be yours until you no longer need to use it for Board Game Club, or until we can start meeting in person again.
Hopefully soon.
Yes, that would be great. So I have some questions here. Please go ahead and put those in the chat, or actually you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them if you'd like. I keep forgetting that as an option. So one of our questions we have is, how can I protect my game idea?
Okay, a lot of people ask that and you're afraid of it. And you know, it's possible that someone could steal your game idea, but some general rules of thumb out there are, like if you're working with other game designers, everybody really has their own game ideas that they're really excited and passionate about, and they're really interested in working on theirs, vice others. If somebody, but the general rule of thumb, and I mentioned it before, is the best thing to do is just get your idea out there, get people understanding that this is your game and this is your idea. And if you're working it and moving it forward like you really want it to become a thing, you know, that's usually a good offense in this area. There are some stories, but usually it's a pretty open and collaborative community. Everybody's helping you move your project along, and everybody's doing their own thing. So it's one of those I'm not a lawyer kind of answers, but I do have some slides actually in the backup about protecting your intellectual property, some things you can do. So you can start using the trademark name, trademark against the name you think your project's going to be called, right? A publisher might change it, but you can start doing that. If you're committed to that name and you're separate, you could even register it, right? You can copyright your rules, things like that. There's some things you can do that will maybe help you sleep better at night. If somebody's going to steal your game, they're probably going to do it anyway, right? You know, but you know, there's a couple of, you know, just common sense things that you can do out there, but basically just get your game out there in the concept and get people to understand, hey, this game, oh, that's associated with this person. So.
Oh, I saw a question. How much do you self-play your games before bringing it to a group? Personally, not a lot. I think a lot of the self-playing happens whenever I make a change to the mechanics or the rules or something. But a lot of the time, obviously, my games are meant to be played in a group, and I think that the first experience should be with a group, at least when I do it.
Yeah. You know, I'd say it depends on your group and just what relationship you have. You know, if it's a safe group, you know, and they're happy to play a bad game, you know, so part of the way you can mitigate that is just kind of like judge from the group and judge from the game itself. Like, is what I put down there completely broken? So like you said, hey, this game usually takes an hour, but in the first 5 minutes, you just see like, this isn't working yet. You know, if the group trusts you to say, all right, let's stop playing after 5 minutes, I've learned enough from this session, you know, then you build up trust. So, you know, it's a bit of a gut feeling and what group you're working with. I like to usually have self-played it enough to feel like there's some sort of flow there, but I always then, you know, when we go to the Game Makers Guild, we make our pitch. We ask for how many players do we want how much time do we want, you know, and what are we trying to accomplish? So, you know, sometimes you'll play your game, you know, say like set up for an end state, and just because you want to learn that or something like that. But I personally like to think I've got sort of a core going, but you know, just be frank with your play testers, and hopefully they'll help you with this in this process.
I think we're pretty fortunate to have a game club that's very open, not open to bad games, but open to all games. So I think that's a good thing I think we have going for the club.
I usually don't victimize the team group to my games, although sometimes I do, but I really like it for them to bring forward their games, and Hayden brings forward a lot, and I want more of the members to bring their games forward, because
yes, I agree.
So yeah, was that good, Bug? Okay, do you have a game?
Yeah, I mean, I throw together stuff all the time.
Okay.
I've got like 5 little things, but I mostly make them and then have the family upstairs play them and say, you know, hey, what do you think? And so,
yeah, we're a friendly group. You know, come on down and let's play some, and you know, you'll get some other perspectives on it. So.
Yeah, so you can play my Rainbow Realm game, which comes in a knit your own Disney princesses box, because you know that's what I had available to put it in.
Perfect. I love it. Here, I have a game about building snowmen. So here is the bag I put it into, right? And it holds a game, but it's also a draw bag during the game. So, hey.
You can play it if you come to the meeting. Great game.
I just love that creative part of it. Even if these games that I'm making never get on anybody's table other than mine, I really do enjoy the process of just creating.
Yeah. So along the lines of my question of how much you self-play the game, like if you have a concept and you break it out and everyone plays it and it seems like, oh, that didn't quite work out the way I thought it would. Like, how much do you try to stick with it before deciding, hey, it really is broken? Or on the flip side, you know, something played and you said, wow, that went awesome. How many times do you say, well, okay, it does seem like it really is working well every single time, and I'm going to make that like a core piece of the game?
Yeah. So a lot of that is just experience. You know, the more times you do it wrong, the more you'll figure out how to do it right. You know, in like how often do you do it? The broken game that you keep trying to work on. You know, Hayden and I talked a little bit about that incubation period, right? So sometimes it is just worth putting aside. I mentioned this game about the rake pieces, and I call it Leave Me Alone. And honestly, I worked on that about 4 or 5 years, and I tried it all sorts of different ways. And, you know, just what can you do? I just had this notion of like, I wanted jumping into piles of leaves, and I reinvented that game so many times. I even have a publisher come to me and say, let's work on this project together. And I never gave it to her as a prototype because I just knew it wasn't the game it wanted to be, you know, and it was very frustrating. And I was actually at another convention and with some game designers, and someone just said, hey, Jeff, how about if we just play it like real time? You know, instead of trying to do this 10 thing and each person has their turn, why don't we just like put 4 across and you're just quickly trying to get the leaves out of your yard? And they played it and bing, the light came on. That's what this game wants to be. So some of it's perseverance, right? To go through all that frustration to maybe find it. But then once you find it, you'll know in your heart that it's fun, right? You know, you'll know, right? And then just preserve that. And then you can continue to add to it or even subtract from there. You know, like you found the fun slice. Let's get rid of everything. You know, there's all sorts of stories out there. So
yeah. Have you also come across instances where you've got this game concept, you start, you think it's going to be fun, you go through play testing, and people say, oh, this would be better, this would be better, and now the game is no longer fun for you at all.
Yeah.
But you're striving to keep making it more fun for other people?
Yeah, that's true. You know, you get feedback from playtesting. Feedback is very good. You know, you should love getting it, but it's still just feedback. You know, and so you know, and Hayden talked about like often will like kind of react immediately and just try it a different way just to get more feedback.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, we're going to head in that new direction or something like that, you know. So being able to take all those inputs and then just kind of sit back and think about things. And there's another art to this that sometimes you stumble on or whatever, but you know, like you get this like 3 different kind of feedbacks, you know, on maybe different issues people are having. But then you think about that one thing. Oh, if I just change this one thing, and then you see how that one thing kind of like ties together all these problems into like one solution, and you're like, you know, maybe I'm onto something there. So it really is important to kind of get those different perspectives and some of the solutions. So I usually try to think about, you know, when people gives you a solution, you know, say great, but think about what, you know, or even ask them, right? You know, what are you trying to get around? What was the unfun thing or the fun thing you wanted to do? And try to, you know, think about the root part of it. And, you know, sometimes it's an aha moment, and other times it's just like that game design notebook is just filled with notes, and you'll just go over it later and you'll, oh wait, that thing there and this thing, you know, even like you made this change 3 iterations ago and you've been playing it that way to fix this thing, but this new idea comes in, and really you've got to kind of go back and like, well, was that previous change I put in now the right thing? Maybe I need to undo that in order to open it this way.
Yeah, right. And also, like, I mean, even last night we were playing a game, a prototype that I had, and it was I think it's an interesting concept and everything, but I really didn't know how I want to play it. And sometimes when I'm explaining it, I'll just say, you know what, I know I had envisioned it playing this way, but I'm just gonna change it this way to see if it'll work. And often it does. I mean, last night I found out that a mechanic in the game that I liked could be even better if I change the order of events, kind of. And I think that a lot of the times it's, you know, do you go through and make it better for everybody else while at the same time keeping it fun for yourself? And I think that finding that happy medium is really the key to a great game.
Yeah. And Hayden's got a great characteristic as a game designer. He's courageous. He's got no fear. He's got no fear that his game is the worst thing ever. He's going to put it in front of us, and we're going to just try it, and then we're going to learn something about it.
Yeah. And a lot of times it is bad.
And I fall in that area a lot. I like to kind of like think that my game's kind of good and kind of fun, and then, you know, maybe when somebody says, Jeff, this isn't fun, I'm like, not ready to hear that. You know, but so I just that, you know, just, yeah, put it on the table and see what happens.
I mean, anyone who does anything creative has to have that courage to put yourself out there. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I saw another question. Can 2-player games be fun? I think so. I mean, I think 1-player games can be fun. I don't think it's really determined by the player count, but I think the content of the game and how it works with 2 players. Like if you're playing a 2-player game and you think, wow, I really wish that I think this would be a lot more fun if there were a couple more people involved, then, I mean, that's an example of a game that may not work as well with 2 players. But, I mean, I think
how much of life is a 2-player game? Come on. Yes. 2-player games can be fun. So,
although a lot of the time the best games are games that can be varied in player count. You can play it with 2 players. You can play it with 6 players. I think that's why a lot of the games that you see on the market aren't just, you need 2 players to play this game or else it's not going to work. I think that's, I think all games can be fun, though. I think that's the core point of that.
I do find some of my competitive games play very differently at 2-player, and that's not the most fun way to play it. So I think that's a good observation. A lot of my cooperative games played kind of the same between 1 and 5, right? But there's definitely a big market for 2-player games, and so obviously people are doing 2-player games successfully.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, we kept you 10 minutes over. You know, so. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Brittany, thank you for organizing this and getting the word out there. See, we've used the library to lure you into our membership of our game club. So
Yes.
Thank you so much, Hayden and Jeff, for being here tonight. It was so great to hear more about your games. Unfortunately, I don't always get to go to Board Game Club and see everything you guys are working on. And Hayden, it was so cool to see your game, Kitchen Catastrophe. I want to play it. So please, I will get this recording up as soon as I can. If either of you wants to send me the presentation to send out to our attendees, I can do that.
I sent the Discord link in the chat if anybody would like to join. Just kind
Board
of
Game Club
Yes.
on Discord. And also Hayden, how should they sign up?
through the library, probably, right?
Yes, would you like everyone, we have a registration, so you can come right to our registration page, which is how you registered for this program tonight. Oh, sorry, my dog again. And sign up for Board Game Club next month. However, I think if you were to join the Hayden's Wilmington Board Game Club channel, we would be able to get you information.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't even need to sign up in order to do it, I think. I mean, we're always open to just coming in. There's no such thing as too many
It
players.
just helps the
Right.
the planning
Yeah, of
the
course.
event. Yeah.
And it will help us know if you need a Steam account through the library with Tabletop Simulator. So we can get you one of those. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now and end the session. But please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me right at the email that I sent you the Zoom link through. Oh, Jeff has a point.
I just have one other thing after you wrap up, Brittany.
Oh, sure. And if you have any questions for Hayden and Jeff, I'll get you in touch with them or hit up the Discord channel.
So I had just gotten an email from a publisher kind of outlining what kind of games they're looking for. And they say right here in there, one of the most asked questions we received over the past 5 months is, can you recommend any good 2-player games? So Nicholas, why don't you get your ideas together? Let's get them on the table and let's get back with this publisher. What do you think?
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, Nicholas, just very quickly, if you're signed up for the summer reading program, I am giving away a 2-player game as one of our prizes. So I think those are all my points. Thank you everyone so much for joining us tonight. I'll go ahead and stop the recording now and end the Zoom room, but please feel free to reach out to Hayden, Mr. Johnston, me, and that would be great. We hope to see you at Board Game Club next month. It'll be at the end of July.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.